The sun was just beginning its slow descent behind the trees when I decided to take the trail that cut deep into the forest. I had always loved hiking alone. The solitude, the quiet, the way the world seemed to shrink down to just you and the path ahead. But that evening, something felt different. The air was heavier, the usual rustle of birds replaced by a strange, almost imperceptible silence. Even the wind, which normally rattled the leaves and branches in a comforting rhythm, had stopped. I shrugged it off, telling myself it was just the forest settling into dusk. My boots crunched against the dirt path as I moved deeper in, the sun casting long, thin shadows that danced between the trees. Everything seemed normal, too normal. And that's when I first heard it. A soft snap, like someone stepping on a brittle twig, echoed somewhere behind me. I froze, every nerve in my body suddenly alert. My first thought was that it had to be an animal, a deer perhaps, or a raccoon, but the sound repeated, slow and deliberate. Snap, pause, snap. I tried to calm myself, taking a deep breath and focusing on the path ahead. Probably just a hiker, I whispered, though the thought felt hollow. The trail I was on was known for being almost deserted this time of year. Very few people ventured in once the sun started to dip below the horizon. I quickened my pace, trying to ignore the sound, but with every step forward, the snapping behind me seemed to mirror mine, matching my rhythm, almost as if someone, or something, was keeping pace. My heart began to race. I wasn't a superstitious person, never believed in the stories about these woods, the tales locals whispered about hikers disappearing or hearing voices when they were alone. Yet, with each step, my rational mind started to falter. Snap, snap, snap. I dared a glance over my shoulder. Nothing, just the silhouettes of the trees against the darkening sky. I tried to convince myself I had imagined it. Maybe a branch falling, maybe my own nerves playing tricks on me. But the sound persisted, steady and unnerving. I reached a small clearing where the path split into two. Normally, I would have taken the left trail, the shorter one that led down to a stream I liked to visit. But tonight, without thinking, I took the right, the longer, more winding route, hoping distance would give me comfort. The forest seemed to shift around me as I walked. Shadows moved in ways they shouldn't, and the air had grown colder, sharper, like a warning. And then I heard it clearly for the first time, footsteps. Not a quick shuffle, not the casual steps of a fellow hiker, but deliberate, slow, and steady. They were following me. I froze again, straining to hear. Every instinct screamed at me not to turn around, not to acknowledge it. But human curiosity, that foolish need for certainty, made me glance back. Nothing. Just the trees, just the dimming light. I kept walking, faster now, my breath shallow and tight in my chest. Snap, snap, snap. The sound came closer. My pulse hammered so loudly I was sure whoever or whatever was behind me could hear it. I tried calling out, forcing my voice to be steady. Hello? Is someone there? No answer. Only the sound of my own heartbeat in my ears and the relentless creeping footsteps that refused to stop. The trail curved sharply, leading me between two enormous oaks whose branches intertwined overhead, forming a tunnel of shadows. My flashlight, which I'd been careful to keep tucked in my backpack, was nowhere near, and I regretted it immediately. The sun had almost fully vanished, leaving me in near complete darkness. And then I heard it. A whisper. So faint I thought I imagined it at first, but it was unmistakably a voice, low and raspy, saying something I couldn't quite make out. I strained, but the words were swallowed by the heavy silence of the forest. Another snap from behind me, and I realized the voice was coming closer. Panic surged, raw and physical. I ran. My boots pounded the dirt path, the sound of my own footsteps loud and desperate. Snap, 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 always behind me, matching my speed, matching my fear. I stumbled over a root, falling to my knees, and for a split second, the world narrowed down to the earth beneath me and the forest closing in around me. I tried to scream, but the sound caught in my throat. And then the snapping stopped. I froze. The sudden silence was worse than the footsteps themselves. My chest heaved as I sat there, trying to gather my wits. And that's when I noticed them. Small footprints, human-like but elongated and uneven, appeared in the soft dirt beside the trail. They weren't mine. They hadn't been there when I passed this section moments ago. I scrambled to my feet, every nerve screaming at me to move, to run, to get out. The footprints multiplied, appearing out of nowhere, crisscrossing the path ahead. And then I heard it again, the whisper, clearer this time. "You shouldn't be here." I bolted. Branches whipped across my face, thorns tore at my clothes, but I didn't stop. The trail bent, twisted, looping in ways I hadn't noticed before, and soon I realized I was lost. The forest had changed. The landmarks I had memorized, the large oak, the rock formation, the small creek, none of them appeared. It was like I had stepped into a different place entirely, one that existed only to trap me. I ran blindly, lungs burning, feet bleeding from roots and stones, the whisper now all around me, coming from every direction at once. And then, just when I thought I couldn't go on, I saw light. A faint glow, warm and inviting, flickering between the trees. Relief surged, and I ran toward it, hoping it was a campsite, another hiker, anything. As I drew closer, the light resolved into a small fire. A figure sat beside it, hunched and silent. Relief turned to dread. I slowed, trying to make sense of it. The figure turned its head slowly. It was a man, or at least it had the shape of one. But his face was impossible to see in the shadows. A low hum emanated from him, almost like a song, but broken, uneven, and wrong. I wanted to speak, to ask for help, but my voice was gone. My feet felt glued to the dirt. The firelight flickered and the man, or thing, stood, stretching unnaturally, limbs too long, movements too precise. And then I saw it. Two pairs of eyes glinting in the darkness, watching me from the trees beyond. I tried to run again, but my legs betrayed me. A hand grabbed my shoulder, icy and strong. I screamed. And then I woke up, sitting on the edge of the trail, heart pounding, the forest silent around me. No footprints, no fire, no figure, just the trees and the encroaching night. But I knew better, because when I looked down, in the soft dirt beside my boot, I saw one fresh footprint, and it was heading in the same direction I had just run. I stayed frozen on that trail for what felt like an eternity. My chest heaved as my eyes darted in every direction, searching for something solid, something that made sense. But there was only darkness, thick and suffocating, and the quiet hum of the forest night, broken only by the distant cry of an owl. The footprint. I couldn't stop staring at it. It was fresh, impossibly fresh, pressed into the soft dirt like a mark left by a hunter tracking his prey. My rational mind screamed that it had to be a trick of the ground, maybe a shadow stretching strangely in the moonlight. But deep down, every instinct in my body knew it wasn't. I didn't move at first. Fear had rooted me, the kind of fear that makes you doubt your own senses. But the longer I stayed, the more pressing it became. I needed to get out, to find any sign of civilization. Slowly, carefully, I began walking down the trail, trying to ignore the heavy feeling pressing against my back, as if something unseen was walking just behind me. Snap. I froze, not a footstep this time, just the sudden crack of a branch under weight. But it was closer, much closer. My hands trembled as I forced myself to keep moving. Every instinct urged me to run, yet some irrational part of me wanted to see, to confirm what was following me. The trail twisted again, this time descending sharply toward a small creek I had crossed many times before. I recognized the murmur of the water and felt a flicker of hope. Maybe if I followed the creek, I'd find the main trail, a road, or someone who could help. I reached the bank and peered into the shadows. The water reflected the slivers of moonlight breaking through the canopy, shimmering over the rocks. I knelt, trying to calm my breathing, and ran my fingers through the cool stream. For a moment, I allowed myself to believe I was safe. Then I heard it again. Footsteps. Not behind me this time, but beside me, across the creek. The sound of something walking carefully over the stones, silent yet deliberate. My head snapped up, scanning the darkness. And that's when I saw them. Silhouettes moving between the trees, distant but unmistakably human. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. Every horror story I'd ever heard, every warning whispered about these woods, surged into my mind. "They're watching you," I whispered to myself, but the words felt absurd even as they were true. I ran. Inside, dust coated every surface. Broken furniture lay scattered, cobwebs hung like tattered curtains. I breathed heavily, eyes scanning the room. Nothing moved. Nothing breathed. For the first time since the trail, I allowed myself a shaky exhale. Then I heard it, a whisper from behind. "I see you." I spun around. The room was empty. My flashlight, still in my backpack, lay where I had dropped it outside. The whisper came again, softer this time, almost teasing, from the corner near the fireplace. I backed toward the door, mind screaming at me to leave. But as I moved, my foot hit something soft. A notebook, old and weathered, lay on the floor. Curious despite my fear, I picked it up. The pages were filled with handwritten notes, shaky and uneven. The words were fragmented, a collection of observations about hikers, trails, and the strange events in these woods. Most entries were recent, others older, some nearly decades old. One sentence made my blood run cold. "They only take those who hear the steps and look back." My stomach turned. Take? What did that mean? And why did it feel like the notebook was warning me directly? I didn't have time to dwell. Snap. 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 Again. Closer. I ran, clutching the notebook, bursting out the door into the night. The forest seemed alive now, twisting unnaturally. Trees leaned in as if trying to block my path. The underbrush seemed thicker, roots reaching like hands to trip me. My lungs burned, and every step brought me closer to exhaustion. Then I saw movement, a figure standing at the edge of the clearing. Pale, thin, impossibly still. Its head tilted slightly, watching me. My stomach dropped. This was no human. Its proportions were wrong, elongated, but eerily human enough to make me panic. I froze, and it took a single step forward. I ran. Branches tore at my face and arms. Thorns ripped my clothing, but I didn't stop. Snap, 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 always behind, always patient, always watching. I reached a bend in the trail where the path narrowed, hemmed in by dense trees. My legs gave out, and I fell again. This time, when I hit the ground, I saw dozens of footprints surrounding me, not just one pair, dozens, pressed deeply into the soft dirt, all moving in the same direction. They were impossibly close. A low hum began, almost like a song, but broken and unnatural. The sound came from all around me, disorienting, pulling at my mind. I tried to scream, tried to move, but I was paralyzed with fear. And then, in the corner of my vision, I saw something even worse. A shadow detached itself from the trees, moving slowly but deliberately toward me. I could see the outline now, tall, thin, limbs bending at strange angles. Its head turned slightly, and though the face remained hidden, I felt its eyes on me. Watching, judging, waiting. I forced myself to my feet, adrenaline surging. I ran again, zigzagging through the trees. But every direction looked the same, every landmark distorted. The forest had become a maze, a trap designed for me alone. Hours seemed to pass. I couldn't tell if it was night or dawn. My legs burned, my lungs ached, but I couldn't stop. And then, faintly at first, I heard another sound. Footsteps, yes, but this time ahead, not behind me. Hope sparked, wild and irrational. Maybe someone else was here, someone who could help. I ran toward it, shouting, but the sound stopped suddenly. Silence. And then the figure appeared, emerging from the trees like a predator stalking its prey. This one was closer than before, tall and thin, its movements precise and calculated, its head tilted as if amused by my fear. I skidded to a halt. My mind raced. I remembered the notebook, the warning, the whispered words, "Do not look back." But the forest had other plans. A branch snapped underfoot, betraying my presence. The figure stopped. The hum began again, closer, surrounding me. My body screamed at me to move, but my mind was frozen in terror. Suddenly I tripped over a root and fell hard, landing face first in the dirt. I tried to crawl, tried to rise, but a hand, or something like a hand, grabbed my shoulder. Cold, impossibly strong, gripping me like iron. I couldn't scream, I couldn't move, and then, softly, directly in my ear, I heard it. "You shouldn't have run." I passed out. When I awoke, I was lying on the trail, alone. The sun had begun to rise, casting weak light through the trees. The footprints were gone. The forest seemed calm, serene, as if nothing had happened. I staggered to my feet, breath ragged, eyes scanning desperately. No figure, no shadows, just the familiar path. But I knew it was waiting, because in the dirt beside me, there was one new footprint, and it was heading in the direction I had come from.